Disclaimer: this content is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. The night was quiet, the kind of quiet that made every small sound in the house feel louder, sharper, more alive. I was standing in front of the tall mirror in our bedroom, holding up a new dress I had bought earlier that day. The soft fabric slid between my fingers, and as I slipped it on, I couldn't help but turn from side to side, trying to imagine if Al would notice the way it shaped around me. The lights were dim, golden against my skin, and for a moment I was lost in my own thoughts, adjusting the neckline, smoothing the hem, almost shy in front of my own reflection. Then, without warning, I felt him behind me. Al had a way of moving that was both quiet and certain, as if he never needed to announce himself. The air shifted as he came closer, his warmth brushing against me before his hands even touched. My breath caught, and in the mirror, I saw his eyes fixed on me, not the dress, not the mirror, but me. That look alone made my heart beat faster. He leaned in, close enough that I could feel his breath against the side of my neck. A shiver ran through me, not from surprise but from the way his presence filled the room. His hand found my waist, fingers curling just slightly as if testing the ground before claiming it fully. I pressed my lips together, caught between the nerves of being seen and the thrill of being wanted so openly. The dress I had been admiring moments earlier suddenly didn't matter. The mirror, the way I had been adjusting myself, all of it became background to the way Al stood behind me. He whispered something, low, teasing, meant only for me, and though the words were simple, they carried a weight that made me tremble. His tone was playful but heavy with meaning, like he knew exactly how to blur the line between comfort and desire. I looked at us in the mirror, me with my flushed cheeks and restless hands, him with that steady, confident gaze. For a moment, it felt like we were in two places at once, standing in our room and yet caught inside a secret world only we could touch. His hands slid higher, brushing over the fabric, testing the edges of it. Each movement was slow, deliberate, full of suspense that made time feel stretched. It wasn't just passion. It was the kind of closeness that comes only from years of knowing each other, from sharing laughter in the kitchen and quiet talks at night, from being more than husband and wife, but best friends who trusted each other with everything. That was what made it so intense, so electric. As the dress shifted under his touch, sliding the way gravity insists fabric must, I realized something simple: intimacy isn't only about the moment itself. It's about the build-up, the way silence can say more than words, the way one look can set everything in motion. And in that reflection, caught between my image and his embrace, I knew that whatever unfolded next would be unforgettable. Al didn't move right away, and that was what made the moment even stronger. His stillness pressed against my nerves, making me aware of every inch between us, every heartbeat I couldn't control. My reflection caught the smallest details: his steady eyes, the way his lips curved in the faintest smile, the way his presence made me forget the dress entirely. I told myself to stay calm, but I could feel the warmth rising in me, chasing away the cool quiet of the room. Al and I had been together for years, and yet, there were still nights when he managed to surprise me like this. Most evenings were filled with routine, sharing dinner, talking about the little stresses of the day, laughing over something silly on the TV. He was my husband, yes, but more than that, he was the one person who understood me without needing explanations. And maybe that was why moments like this never lost their power. They were built on a foundation of friendship, trust, and a history of knowing each other deeply. I remembered the first time I had ever shown him a new dress. It had been early in our marriage, when I still felt shy about letting him see me in certain lights. He had looked at me then the same way he was looking at me now, like I was the only thing that mattered in the room. That look hadn't changed with time, and standing here in front of the mirror, it reminded me that some connections don't fade, they only grow stronger. Still, there was a mystery in his silence tonight. He hadn't said much, but his touch and his gaze spoke in ways that made me restless. I wondered what was going through his mind, what story he was silently writing in this quiet pause. He always had a way of keeping me guessing, as if he enjoyed the suspense just as much as I did. The dress slid a little further, almost without me realizing, and I caught my breath. Al's hand tightened slightly at my waist, as if to remind me he was in control of the moment. The tension between us felt stretched, like a bow pulled tight, ready to release but holding back on purpose. It was playful, but heavy too, teasing me into the unknown, leaving me curious about what would happen next. In the mirror, we looked like two people standing still, but under the surface everything was moving. My thoughts raced, my body hummed with awareness, and Al's calm silence only deepened the suspense. It was a dance without music, and neither of us seemed in a hurry to end it. That was the beauty of our bond, every second could feel like a story unfolding. Still, there was a mystery in his silence tonight. He hadn't said much, but the weight of it pressed into me, leaving me with questions I couldn't voice. Was he simply caught in the moment, or was there something more lingering behind his eyes? That uncertainty became its own kind of tension, pulling at me as much as his touch did. Al had always been a man who kept things close to his chest. He wasn't secretive in the way that caused mistrust, but thoughtful, careful with what he shared, saving his words for when they mattered most. Sometimes that made me feel secure, wrapped in the strength of his calm. Other times, like now, it left me restless, wondering if I could read him as well as I thought I could. As the minutes passed, my mind drifted to the undercurrents of our life together. We were strong as a couple, yet even in strong relationships there are shadows, little questions, small hesitations, moments when the past touches the present. Al had been working longer hours lately, coming home tired, sometimes distracted. I had told myself it was just work, that he carried his stress differently than I did. But standing here, feeling his silence and his grip, I couldn't help but wonder if he had brought some of that weight into this room tonight. The dress slipped again, a whisper of fabric brushing against me, and Al's hand steadied it almost absently. That touch, though, was enough to pull me back into the moment. I tried to focus on us, the way the golden light painted us in the mirror, the closeness that had always been our anchor. Yet the questions still stirred beneath the surface. Was this pause his way of testing me, of seeing how much I trusted him? Or was it simply the way he enjoyed drawing out our moments, savoring them like a secret meal no one else could taste? Another thought came to me, softer but harder to shake. Maybe the conflict wasn't with him at all, but with myself. I was caught between wanting control and wanting to surrender, between wanting to ask questions and wanting to simply let the night unfold. That push and pull was as much a part of intimacy as laughter and touch. It was the unspoken challenge of being fully open with another person, of letting someone in completely. I saw my own eyes in the mirror, wide and searching, and realized the story wasn't just about what Al was thinking, it was about what I was willing to feel. The suspense wasn't only in his silence but in my own hesitation, my own racing thoughts. The mirror held both of us, side by side, locked in a moment that balanced between comfort and the unknown. Neither of us moved to end it, and maybe that was the point. Some conflicts don't need to break apart, they need to linger, to deepen, to remind you that even love has its mysteries. The silence between us grew heavier, thick with everything unspoken. My pulse was racing, each beat echoing louder in my chest as Al stayed close behind me. His reflection was steady in the mirror, but the storm I felt inside me made the moment stretch, almost unbearable in its intensity. I could sense he was holding back, as if testing how much suspense I could endure before breaking. His hand lingered at my waist, thumb brushing over the fabric of the dress, tracing absent patterns that sent ripples through me. It was such a small gesture, but the weight of it carried more than words could. My breath grew shallow, and I had to remind myself to stand still, to not give away just how much control he had over me without even moving. I met his eyes in the mirror, and that was when the tension hit its peak. There was fire there, yes, but also something quieter, questions, emotions, maybe even doubts he wasn't saying aloud. I wanted to ask, to break the silence, but part of me knew that speaking would shatter the fragile beauty of this moment. It wasn't just about what was happening, it was about what was about to happen, the anticipation winding tighter like a thread ready to snap. The dress slid again, looser now, and I instinctively reached to steady it. But before I could, his hand covered mine, stopping me. That touch froze me in place. It was gentle, but it carried the weight of finality, as if he was saying without words, "Don't fight this, let it be." The mirror captured the closeness, our hands layered together, the dress barely hanging between us, and it felt like the whole world had narrowed down to this single suspended moment. Every little detail sharpened, the hum of the lamp, the faint sound of traffic outside, the warmth of his breath brushing my shoulder. The room seemed to hold its own breath too, waiting with me, urging me towards something I couldn't yet name. My heart was torn between fear and excitement, between wanting to hold on and wanting to let go. The suspense had never felt stronger. It was no longer about the dress or even the mirror, it was about the edge we were standing on together, a place where love, trust, and desire all collided. One more move, one more shift, and the moment would tip into something unforgettable. But for now, we both held still, the tension thick and unbroken, leaving the air charged with the weight of what was coming. The room was still charged, the moment stretched so thin it felt like even the smallest sound could break it. My reflection showed a woman caught between surrender and resistance, while Al's steady presence behind me left me trembling with anticipation. Just when I thought I had mapped out how the night would go, something unexpected shifted the ground beneath me. Al's hand tightened just slightly on mine, his gaze never leaving mine in the mirror. But instead of pulling me closer the way I expected, he stepped back, just far enough that his warmth faded. The sudden distance sent a jolt through me, like a candle flame flickering in the wind. I turned my head slightly, confused, searching for an answer in his expression. He didn't look away, but there was a storm in his eyes now, something deeper than the teasing silence we had shared. For a fleeting second, I wondered if he was about to pull away completely, if this was his way of testing me. That thought made my chest tighten, because the idea of losing the intensity between us felt unbearable. But then, just as quickly, he leaned back in, his breath brushing my ear as he whispered something so soft I almost thought I imagined it. The words weren't clear, but the tone carried weight, like a secret, like a challenge. My pulse raced, desperate to catch the meaning, desperate to know if he was telling me what I thought he was. The twist wasn't in what he did, but in what I realized. This wasn't only about intimacy, it was about trust. He was pushing me into a space where I had to choose, to stay silent and let him lead, or to break the suspense and meet him halfway. And that choice carried its own conflict. The dress slid further, hanging on by little more than gravity, and Al's hand hovered close but didn't catch it this time. He let the silence let me decide, and the suspense nearly tore me apart. In the mirror, I saw not just us in this moment, but all the times before, the nights we laughed, the days we argued, the quiet mornings where nothing needed to be said. Every memory collided with the present, raising the stakes higher than I had imagined. Then came the real twist, a knock at the door downstairs. Faint, but sharp enough to cut through the charged silence of our room. I froze, my body tense, caught between two worlds. Al's jaw tightened, his eyes flickering in the mirror, and I realized the conflict wasn't just inside me anymore. The outside world had intruded, threatening to shatter everything we were building in this fragile, suspended moment. Neither of us moved right away. The knock came again, firmer this time, echoing through the house. The suspense doubled. Was it something important, or just another interruption we could ignore? My heart pounded with the weight of choice: follow the sound downstairs, or stay locked in the electric tension with Al, risking whatever waited outside. The stakes had shifted. What had been only about us was now entangled with something unknown, a twist neither of us could have predicted. The suspense was no longer about whether I would let go, but whether the moment itself would survive the pull of the outside world. The knock at the door echoed through the house once more, sharper this time, and it felt like the entire night balanced on that sound. I looked at Al in the mirror, searching his face for a decision. His eyes never wavered, steady and unyielding, and that was when I understood. He wasn't going to let the outside world steal this moment from us. Slowly, deliberately, he reached for me again, closing the distance with a certainty that pushed everything else into the background. The dress finally slipped, gravity finishing what suspense had started, and I felt the air shift as Al's arms pulled me closer. My reflection blurred in the mirror as my focus narrowed to the warmth of his hold, the steadiness of his breath against my skin. The conflict that had been tugging at me, fear of surrender, doubt about what he carried inside, melted into clarity. This was where I belonged, not in the questions or the pauses, but in the truth of how we fit together. For a moment, it felt like time stopped. The knock at the door was forgotten, the silence between us replaced by the sound of my heartbeat and the weight of his presence. All the tension, the push and pull, the unspoken questions, it all surged into this one instant of release. The suspense had reached its peak, and the resolution was simple yet overwhelming. We chose each other, fully, without hesitation. But just as I let that truth settle, just as the relief washed over me, the final twist came. From downstairs, a voice called out, not a stranger's, but one we both recognized. My sister's. She wasn't supposed to be here tonight, yet her voice carried through the house, breaking the fragile bubble we had created. I froze in Al's arms, my mind racing. The unexpected intrusion wasn't just inconvenient, it threatened to unravel the secrecy of our private world, exposing the intimacy we had guarded so carefully. Al met my eyes in the mirror again, a small smile tugging at his lips despite the interruption. It was as if he knew that even with this twist, even with the surprise waiting downstairs, nothing could take away what we had just shared. The climax wasn't just about passion or suspense, it was about choosing to hold on when the world demanded we let go. And though the story wasn't finished, the bond between us had only grown stronger, tested by the unexpected and made unbreakable by the choice we made together. The sound of her voice still echoed in the air, but instead of breaking us apart, it pushed us closer together. Al kept his arms wrapped around me, steady and grounding, as if to remind me that nothing outside those walls could erase what we had just chosen. My sister's presence downstairs was a twist we hadn't expected, yet in that moment, it became clear that the real test wasn't about secrecy, it was about how much we trusted what we shared. I finally pulled back just enough to see his face, the calm in his eyes easing the storm in my chest. He brushed a hand against my cheek, silent but certain, as if to say that no interruption, no sudden turn, could undo us. And maybe he was right. Life had always found ways to challenge us, to throw doubts into the space between, but every time, we returned stronger. This night wasn't any different. We took a breath together, the tension thinning but not vanishing. Instead, it transformed into something deeper, an understanding that real intimacy wasn't about moments free of conflict, but about holding on in the middle of it. I could still hear my sister moving below, unaware of what her arrival had interrupted, and for the first time I didn't feel panic. Instead, I felt a strange kind of clarity. Al squeezed my hand, and we both knew that what had happened upstairs wasn't just fleeting. It was a choice sealed by trust and tested by timing. The suspense, the mirror, the interruption, it had all led us here, to this quiet acceptance that no twist could erase the bond we had built. Later, when we finally stepped out of that room, the world felt different, lighter. My sister greeted me with surprise, but I carried a calm she couldn't shake, because she didn't know the storm I had just walked through, or the anchor I had found in him. Looking back, I realized that the story wasn't about the dress or the knock or even the voice from downstairs. It was about the way two people can choose each other in the middle of chaos and find peace in that choice. That was the true ending, the one that mattered. If you've been following along, tell me how you feel about this ending. Did the twist surprise you? Would you want to see a sequel where the story continues after that unexpected interruption? Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear them in the comments. Don't forget to like this video if it moved you, share it with someone who loves a good suspenseful romance, and subscribe so you never miss what comes next. Because sometimes, the most unforgettable stories aren't the ones without interruptions, they're the ones where love grows stronger in spite of them.